In the pantheon of NFL legends, one man stands above all others at the running back position. A player so dominant that his record seemed unbreakable, his style inimitable, his impact immeasurable. Jim Brown didn't just play football, he redefined it. In an era when running backs were expected to be workhorses, he was a thoroughbred. When they were meant to be tackled, he was untouchable. When they were supposed to fade with time, he walked away at his peak. The story of Jim Brown isn't just about yards and touchdowns. It's about a standard of excellence that has endured for over half a century. A standard that modern superstars still chase, but have yet to surpass. Jim Brown had a record-setting 9-year career as a fullback for the Cleveland Browns from 1957 through 1965. In that brief window, he accomplished what most couldn't in twice the time. He was the first player ever to reach the 100 rushing touchdowns milestone and remains the only rusher in NFL history to average over 100 yards per game for a career. When Brown retired in July 1966, he walked away as the NFL's all-time leading rusher with 12,312 yards, a mark that seemed untouchable at the time. But perhaps more impressive than the total was how he accumulated it, at a staggering 5.2 yards per carry over his entire career. LeBron James, arguably basketball's greatest player, once said of Brown, "I really just thought of him as the greatest Cleveland Brown to ever play. Then I started my own journey as a professional athlete and realized what he did socially was his true greatness." But to understand why Jim Brown remains the standard, we must go back to where it all began. Born James Nathaniel Brown on February 17, 1936, in St. Simons Island, Georgia, Brown's athletic prowess was evident from an early age. At Manhasset High School in New York, he earned 13 varsity letters in 5 sports: football, lacrosse, baseball, basketball, and track. Brown's collegiate career at Syracuse was equally impressive. He excelled not just in football, but also in basketball, track, and lacrosse. In fact, he's regarded as one of the best lacrosse players of all time, so dominant that the rules were changed because of him. When the Cleveland Browns selected Brown with the 6th overall pick in the 1957 NFL Draft, they couldn't have known they were drafting not just a great player, but a revolutionary one. It didn't take long for Brown to announce his arrival to the NFL. Just 9 games into his rookie season, on November 24, 1957, Brown delivered a performance for the ages against the Los Angeles Rams. He ripped off 237 yards and 4 touchdowns on 31 carries to headline a 45-31 win. It was the largest single-game rushing total of any player in NFL history at that time, and not until 4 decades later did another rookie eclipse the mark. Johnny Majors, who finished second in the 1956 Heisman Trophy voting, was once asked who should have won that year's award. His response was simple: Jim Brown. Brown's rookie season was just a glimpse of what was to come. He would go on to lead the NFL in rushing for 8 of his 9 seasons, a record that still stands today. He was named NFL MVP 3 times, in 1957, 1958, and 1965. Making him the only non-quarterback in NFL history to win the award 3 times. Perhaps the most defining play of Brown's Hall of Fame career came in his 5th season, on December 10, 1961, against the Chicago Bears. Fielding a short pass inside Cleveland's own 15-yard line, Brown shook off no fewer than 5 different Bears defenders while working the sideline, then outraced the entire Chicago secondary for a touchdown. The most remarkable aspect of this play wasn't just the physical dominance, but how effortless Brown made it look, as if he was playing a different game than everyone else on the field. 2 years later, Brown would deliver an encore against Washington. Taking another dump-off pass, he casually bounced off at least 4 would-be tacklers before breaking into an easy 83-yard sprint for a score. These weren't just highlights, they were statements. They showed that Brown wasn't just a power back, he was a complete athlete who could beat you in any number of ways. The 1963 season would prove to be one of Brown's finest. On October 20th, he set the then NFL single-season rushing record by amassing 1,863 yards across 14 games. He averaged an NFL record 6.4 yards per carry that season, a mark that still stands today. His best game came against the Dallas Cowboys, where he had 232 yards from 20 attempts with 2 touchdowns. Brown once said of his approach, "There were a lot of running backs as good as me. The real difference was that I could focus. I never laid back and relied on natural ability." That focus and determination were on full display in the 1964 NFL championship game. Up against Don Shula, Johnny Unitas, and the Baltimore Colts, Brown led both sides with 114 yards on the ground, keeping Cleveland in control of a 27-0 shutout victory. It would be the franchise's most recent NFL championship. Brown's playing style was unlike anything the NFL had seen before. He didn't avoid contact, he initiated it. Defenders often needed multiple players to bring him down. Yet, he also possessed the agility to make defenders miss in the open field. It was like watching a freight train that could change directions on a dime. This unique combination of power and grace is what set Brown apart from his contemporaries, and what continues to separate him from the running backs who followed. Barry Sanders, widely considered one of the greatest to ever play the position, was known for his elusiveness and ability to avoid contact. His father, William Sanders, once said, "I tell Barry all the time that Jim Brown is the greatest running back of all time. Barry is good, but he isn't Jim Brown." The contrast between Brown and Sanders illustrates what made Brown so special. While Sanders avoided contact, Brown initiated it. While Sanders had the pile chasing him all over the field, Brown put his head down and pushed the pile. Brown got hit, Sanders did not. Walter Payton, another all-time great, brought versatility and a strong work ethic to the position. He wasn't just a runner, he was a versatile offensive threat. But even Payton's career numbers, 16,726 rushing yards and 110 touchdowns, must be viewed in the context of his 13 seasons, compared to Brown's 9. When comparing Brown to other all-time greats, the statistics tell part of the story, but context is key. Jim Brown played just 9 seasons and 118 games, averaging 104.3 rushing yards per game. Walter Payton played 13 seasons and 190 games, averaging 88 rushing yards per game. Barry Sanders played 10 seasons and 153 games, averaging 99.8 rushing yards per game. Brown's yards per carry of 5.2 remains the highest among the all-time great running backs. Sanders is second at 5.0, while Payton averaged 4.4. What truly sets Brown apart is that he accomplished all of this in an era when defenses were designed specifically to stop the run. The passing game was not nearly as developed as it would become in later decades, meaning defenses could focus almost exclusively on stopping Brown. Despite this, he couldn't be contained. Brown's impact extended beyond his statistical dominance. He was a trailblazer both on and off the field. He was the first player to use an agent, the first superstar to successfully demand that a coach be fired, and the first athlete to ever willingly quit his sport in his prime, because his manhood was more important to him than enduring the disrespect of management. In July 1966, while filming The Dirty Dozen in London, Brown announced his retirement from football at the age of 30, still very much in his prime. Cleveland Browns owner Art Modell had threatened to fine Brown for missing the start of training camp due to his movie commitments. Rather than bend to Modell's demands, Brown chose to walk away from the game entirely. This decision shocked the sports world, but exemplified Brown's independent spirit and unwillingness to be controlled. It also preserved his legacy in a way that few athletes manage. Unlike many greats who play past their prime, Brown's career exists in our collective memory as an uninterrupted stretch of dominance. Brown once said, "I think of my life as a journey, and I'm still on it." His journey after football included a successful acting career and significant civil rights activism. He used his platform to advocate for social justice and economic empowerment in the Black community. The relationship between Brown and his offensive line was special, a partnership that transcended coaching strategies. Brown described it as a marriage between the lineman and myself. Had nothing to do with the coaches or the plays that they called. We did our own thing. It was like being a locomotive and a cheetah all wrapped up in one. We'd outrun everything and run over everything else. This symbiotic relationship helped Brown and the Browns reach the NFL championship game 3 times, winning once in 1964. It was a testament to Brown's leadership and ability to inspire those around him. Brown's legacy is not just about what he accomplished on the field, but about how he accomplished it. His combination of power, speed, agility, and vision has never been replicated. Modern running backs might excel in 1 or 2 of these areas, but none have mastered all of them the way Brown did. When the NFL renamed its league rushing title as the Jim Brown Award in February 2023, it was a fitting tribute to a man who had defined the position for generations. Brown led the league in rushing 8 times, a record that still stands. He was the first player in NFL history to eclipse 10,000 career rushing yards, and he never missed a game in any of his 9 NFL seasons. Brown's impact on the game can be seen in every running back who followed him. From Franco Harris to Eric Dickerson, from Emmitt Smith to Adrian Peterson, all have tried to incorporate elements of Brown's game into their own. But none have managed to capture the complete package. When asked about greatness, Brown himself said, "When I think of greatness, I think of guys like Earl Campbell and Gale Sayers and Walter Payton, and these individuals who, it's unanimous, they're going to make a difference." The irony is that Brown was describing others when he was, in fact, the standard by which all others are measured. Brown's final season in 1965 was a testament to his enduring excellence. He led the NFL in rushing yards with 1,544, 677 more yards than runner-up Gale Sayers. He walked away from the game not as a diminished star, but as the undisputed king of his position. Jim Brown died peacefully at age 87 in his Los Angeles home on May 18, 2023. But his legacy lives on in every running back who tries to break a tackle, in every player who uses their platform for social change, and in every fan who appreciates the perfect blend of power and grace that Brown brought to the field. In a sport that has evolved dramatically since Brown's playing days, his standard of excellence remains unchanged. Modern running backs may play in a more pass-oriented league, with better equipment, advanced training methods, and improved medical care, yet none have managed to surpass Brown's per-game production or his impact on the position. Jim Brown didn't just play football, he defined what it meant to be a running back. He set a standard so high that more than half a century later, it remains unmatched. In a league constantly searching for the next great player, we're still waiting for the next Jim Brown. And perhaps we always will be. For in the end, Jim Brown didn't just raise the bar for running backs, he became the bar. And that bar remains as high today as it was when he walked off the field for the final time in 1965, leaving behind a legacy that time has only strengthened. As Brown himself once said, "Showing weakness will encourage your opponents. It inspires them. It encourages them to hit harder, to come faster. But when you don't show any fear, or when you don't show any hurt, you have the opportunity to discourage your opponent." Jim Brown never showed weakness. And in doing so, he discouraged not just the opponents of his day, but every running back who has tried to claim his throne in the decades since. What made Brown truly exceptional was his ability to transcend the limitations of his era. The 1950s and 60s NFL was a different game. The fields weren't as well maintained, the equipment was primitive by today's standards, and the medical care was rudimentary. Players often played through injuries that would sideline modern athletes for weeks. In this harsh environment, Brown not only survived, he dominated. Former Cleveland teammate Bobby Mitchell once remarked, "Jim didn't just run past people. He ran through them, over them, around them. He made them look like they were standing still." This sentiment was echoed by countless defenders who had the unenviable task of trying to tackle Brown. Many described it as trying to stop a runaway train with their bare hands. Brown's impact on Cleveland was immeasurable. In the 9 years before his arrival, the Browns had a winning percentage of .671. During his 9-year tenure, that figure rose to .700. He transformed an already successful franchise into a perennial championship contender. Perhaps one of the most overlooked aspects of Brown's greatness was his durability. In an era when running backs took tremendous punishment, Brown never missed a game due to injury. He played in 118 consecutive games, every game of his NFL career. This Iron Man streak is even more impressive considering the workload he carried. Brown averaged 20.2 touches per game throughout his career, often against defenses specifically designed to punish him. Hall of Fame coach Paul Brown, who drafted Jim to Cleveland, once said, "Jim Brown is the greatest player I've ever coached, and I've coached some great ones." This was high praise from a man who had coached Otto Graham, Marion Motley, and other Hall of Famers. One game that truly showcased Brown's dominance came on November 15, 1959, against the Philadelphia Eagles. In a 21-7 victory, Brown rushed for 156 yards on 28 carries and scored all 3 Cleveland touchdowns. What made this performance special wasn't just the numbers, but the circumstances. The Eagles had the league's top-ranked run defense that season, allowing just 3.4 yards per carry to all other opponents. Against Brown, they surrendered 5.6 yards per attempt. Brown's influence extended to how the position itself was played. Before him, fullbacks were primarily blockers who occasionally carried the ball. Brown redefined the position as the focal point of the offense. His success led teams to seek out bigger, faster running backs who could both power through the line and break away in the open field. Hall of Fame defensive end Deacon Jones, who faced Brown multiple times, put it simply, There have been great running backs in the NFL, but when you talk about the greatest of all time, I'm sorry, there's only one, and that's Jim Brown. Even modern players who never saw Brown play recognize his greatness. Adrian Peterson, one of the most accomplished running backs of the 21st century, once said, "When you look at the numbers and what he was able to accomplish in just 9 years, it's mind-blowing. He's the standard that all running backs are measured against." What truly separated Brown from his peers and those who followed was his mentality. He approached the game not just as a physical contest, but as a psychological one. He believed that by imposing his will on defenders, he could break their spirit. This approach was evident in how he finished runs, always falling forward, always delivering the blow rather than receiving it. As we reflect on Jim Brown's legacy, we must acknowledge that his greatness transcended statistics. He wasn't just a football player, he was a cultural icon who used his platform to fight for civil rights and social justice. He organized the Cleveland Summit in 1967, bringing together top black athletes to support Muhammad Ali's refusal to be drafted into the Vietnam War. He founded the Amer I Can program to help gang members and ex-convicts turn their lives around. Jim Brown's standard of excellence, both on and off the field, continues to inspire generations of athletes. His combination of physical dominance, mental toughness, and social consciousness created a legacy that remains unmatched. In a sport that constantly evolves, Brown's greatness stands the test of time, a testament to a player who wasn't just ahead of his era, but, in many ways, ahead of ours as well. As the great sports writer Jim Murray once wrote, "For mercurial speed, airy nimbleness, and explosive violence in one package of undistilled evil, there is no other like Mr. Brown." More than half a century later, those words still ring true. Jim Brown remains the standard by which all running backs are measured, and likely always will be.